It's not that someone tried to force me to or told me you have to go get married. That was kind of the expectation, just you're not gonna go study abroad on your own. I was expected to get my bachelor's degree and then get married and not use it.
And I guess to that, about switching into maybe culture a little bit on Ecuador, so Spanish obviously, national language, ex-Spanish colony, which then became independent. There was the whole thing with Gran Colombia where you were part of Colombia and Venezuela, but then that sort of broke up, and then you've been an independent country for a long time. And I get you said that your upbringing was much more Americanized than a lot of people who live there, but the daily culture, so the food, the family dynamics, sort of how you see the way the people around me would behave and act. What was a little bit of that like?
Definitely there's a difference there. It might be, no, this is a general thing, but it might also be specifically my family or my surroundings. But it is, Ecuador is majorly a very Catholic country, which makes it a very conservative country. Coming here, I know there's obviously at least 50% of the country very conservative. There's much more freedom and to be who you are here,
yeah, sure.
And it's easier to find that acceptance on no matter your choices in all aspects of life than there is in Ecuador. In Ecuador, there are definitely family expectations on how you should behave, what you should do, and as a woman, at least for me, it's not that someone tried to force me to or told me you have to go get married. That was kind of the expectation, just you're not gonna go study abroad on your own. I was expected to get my bachelor's degree and then get married and not use it. And I think that's something that does happen a lot in Ecuador. Even women who are educated, they just get the degree to have that backup and be I'm an independent, empowered woman, and I have my own, I can build my own future if I want to. But then you just get married, and the custom is your husband will provide, and you'll stay home and raise the children, which I found a little problematic, just because yes, you have your bachelor's, but then the 20 years that you stayed home and raised your kids, it's 20 years that you lost from building your career, which is fine if that's your choice, but it is very family oriented, which can be great. It's great, and I love my family. We're very close, even with my cousins, even with extended family. That's a huge thing in Ecuador, and I think in most of South America. But it also, and I don't know if you've watched Disney or Pixar movies recently, where
I will say less so. Less and less am I watching Disney and Pixar movies, but that's again a different topic to get on.
But there's this one topic that they touch on a lot about other cultures, some Asian cultures and some Latin cultures, where the pressure to be close to your family or to live up to their expectations and to not provide for your family, but to kind of be there for support always for your family, ends up being a little overwhelming in time. So I think that is very true, and I think there is also that beautiful aspect of being able to always rely on your family, but there's also this other part that I feel sometimes is not talked about enough.
And also the point about the education, that sounds, this is obviously before my time, I wasn't alive at this time, but it sounds very much like the US in sort of the 1950s and 60s, where you had plenty of women who were going to college, but the sense was after you go to college, now you then just kind of raise kids and you get married, and like you're educated, but you're not building a career for yourself.
Right.
And that seemed to have been about, like I think by the 70s that was changing, but like 60s that was still very much kind of what was done.
And this is something that does get talked about a lot here, but about like being kinder to working moms. But in Ecuador, if you're a working mom, I think it's way harder even for you because of the way we're raised to work and raise your child, because you feel like you're being a bad mother, because being a good mother in Ecuador means like being there 24/7. And if even like socially, like your friends or like acquaintances or everyone that surrounds you maybe won't tell you to your face like, oh, you're being a bad mother, but they'll be like, oh, she works all day, and like, so it's there's a lot of social pressure in terms of that. Okay. And I think that comes with it being like very, very conservative, because it like raises expectations, which is something.
I was talking to someone, this is actually from Chile, who is saying that amongst the younger population, though, there's starting to be a little bit less focus on being super Catholic. Is that, again, given where you were sitting, and I get that's not most of the population, though, did you have a little bit of that sense that like the people who were under 35, let's say, under 30, were less into Catholicism? Or is it like, no, it was pretty much through all the population?
No, most people grow up to be very Catholic still. And I know, because you were saying, and I think, because you told me to kind of like compare with other countries. I know you said this about Chile, and this is a conversation that I've had with some like Chilean people, how Chile is actually a lot more advanced in terms of that socially, to not to be more accepting in terms of like what your choices are in terms of like religion or and Ecuador is very, very different. It's still very conservative.
Okay. That makes sense then. That even for younger populations, it's like nope, through and through, people are Catholic there. Yeah. What, I guess, broad question, right? But like, what was it like growing up upper middle class in one of these environments where there's a tremendous disparity between people with money and people without money? Like, what was your daily life like? Was there a sense of things like private security, a sense of like, oh, you don't go over there, a sense of like, this is our world? Or was it like, no, I was free to roam and travel? What was kind of going on there? So,
well, I mean, private security, definitely no. I wasn't like rich or anything. But there was, my mom was very overprotective, yes, but there is that, like, you don't go downtown, and if you go, like, go with a man. You don't go to the south. That's like, and I remember I worked for 2 years in a TV station in Ecuador, and it was in the south, and like my family at first was like super worried and like, don't leave the station and just stay there, because it's dangerous.
This is the south of the country.
The south of the city.
Or the south of the city. Okay, south of the city.
This is my experience, and I think there are a lot of people who grow up the same way, maybe never like realize it. I think I had like a strong like bump into reality at one point, and it opened up my wow. But I did not grow up like conscious about the realities of the country and other people. I definitely grew up in a bubble where my reality was like, I was the valid human in a way. Like that sounds very strong, but my mom and I shouldn't say this on camera, but I'm just gonna say it for the sake of this. My mom sometimes would tell me when I would ask a question about, we had people working like housekeepers, and when I would ask a question about them, or like, oh, why are they staying, like they're working on the weekend, you know, she would be like, oh, because like that's their lives, like they're different, you know, they're not like us, like they don't need a weekend, kind of like not like that, but kind of. So in my 10-year-old brain, that's what I would hear, and that's how you grow up thinking you like those are different people, you know, like those people don't have like rights, don't have emotions, don't have like don't have the same needs as us, you know, like they don't have the need to a restful weekend. There comes a point, obviously, like you grow up and you realize like they're also people. And what I see a lot is people like trying to do charity work and being like condescending. Not condescending.
Yeah, no, I mean, in plenty of cases, I mean, I'm thinking about the US too. I mean, absolutely condescending, for sure.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But they help with this like pity type of like, oh, like here, the dollar.
Yeah.
And like that's not gonna solve anything, but like it makes you feel like, oh, I'm superior.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's I do think there's that huge separation again in my experience where if you don't get to the point where like life kind of hits you in the face with a break to like open your perspective to other realities, you don't realize that you are living in a country that has this extreme separation of
Yeah. I mean, it's always tough, right? Especially when you're a kid, because kids are kids and you just understand the reality that you're given, and it's hard to sometimes understand like a broader sense of truth. So your perspective on this changed. Do you find that your parents' perspective ever changed, or they still very much view it as like, no, that's the help, you know, those are the people that clean our house, like?
Yeah, I don't even try anymore in terms of that. They're not bad people, and I just want to like highlight that. They're if anything very like given in like always trying to help and trying to like be generous, but I feel like there comes a point when it was so hard for me, I guess at like 18, 19, when I realized when you start meeting people and like, fraternizing with people that are not within your bubble or your circle, I think that's when you start realizing like this person, like it doesn't come from my circle, but like has the same values, have like the same emotions, like it's hurt, you know, like those things that I don't think they've ever experienced. So they've never changed it, and I'm speaking from like all the adults that were ever in my life. I don't think they've ever changed that perspective, but also I think they've not had the opportunity to do so in a way. I think the way your social life works in Ecuador is so structured that it's hard to break out of that shell that you have.
When you say it's structured, what do you mean by that?
I guess I would go back to the expectations that we were talking about earlier. Like you have, you have like this, like you know, when I was younger, and I think that's the best way to explain it. I would go to a friend's house, and my mom would ask me like, what's like their last name, what's their second last name, because in Ecuador we use both last names. And then she would ask me, and what's her mom's last name, and who's her mom's mom, and who's what's his dad's two last names, and like, so it's like a thing of like, you can only kind of socialize with people that are within that are like acceptable.